And welcome back inside the High School T Press Box. Today's our 252 edition of the football previews here. We have Laieke Abebe, who's a contributor for High School T, and Zach Kaplan, who is with WNCT TV. Guys, before we get going, where can people find you at social media wise and then work wise? Laieke, most of your stuff's on High School T, but Zach, go ahead and tell us where we can find your stuff.
Yeah, we're excited to have Brian Bay's Touchdown Friday back this Friday night. And every Friday night, if you don't watch it live or you fall asleep on your couch, we do post it on the Facebook and onto our website every Friday night after the show wraps up. So we're excited to be running it back. It's my boss's 42nd year covering high school football in North Carolina. This is year 4 for me. So excited to bring you all the great coverage on Channel 9 and run it back for another high school football season.
And Laieke?
Uh, and for me, I think at this point everybody knows I have a nickname, Striker or Striker Lights. Uh, uh, it is a privilege to be a contributor for High School OT for this second year. This year 2 for me. Year 10 overall, covering high school sports in Eastern North Carolina and now beyond. And it's a blessing and a privilege to be able to do so on a daily basis. And we're excited to have high school football back across the state.
Yeah, and it's game week. I can't believe it's game week. We have 5 days, or I can't do math, but we're close to week 1, so I can't wait for it coming up this Friday. All right, so 252, pretty big area. We have lots to cover here. We're just gonna go from biggest conference to smallest conference, and that means we're gonna start with the Big Carolina 6A, 7A. So really interesting league. Obviously, Jacksonville won it last year. Conley finished in second, Rose in third, New Bern finished in fourth. South Central finished in fifth, and White Oak finished in sixth. Technically, Jacksonville and White Oak are not in our 252, but we still have to talk about them in relation to the rest of the teams in this conference. Jacksonville was the preseason pick by the coaches to win this conference, and Rose came in second. I think you and I both might disagree with that pick. Tell us about Jacksonville and their standing, and then, of course, we'll get into Rose.
Yeah, a lot of people were surprised by the coaches picks, including, as a side note, including Conley being picked third despite what they lost to graduation and transfer. Uh, but Coach Williams' squad is poised to be another very good squad out in 6A East. Uh, got a lot of talent across the board back, including Josh Benton, at quarterback. They've always found a way to be a consistent winning program out east, and I believe this year will be no different. I certainly think they're contenders again.
I think we're starting to find a lot of teams in the 6A classification that are real contenders to get to a state championship out east, and Jacksonville is certainly one of them. But another one is Rose, and Zach. I don't know if you've seen Rose in the preseason here, but and I both kind of think that they're one of the teams that's been the most impressive. They looked good against Rollsville in the short time against Rollsville, and they just demolished Kinston at their own jamboree last week. Why is this Rose team catching so much of our attention? And it's kind of give us the elevator pitch for them.
Yes, I would say they're probably the most impressive team I saw out of the 252 squads I saw this first couple of weeks of the preseason. Adding Shamaka Bell from DH Conley, the dynamic wide receiver, adds a lot to an already potentially explosive offense. Jalik Parson on the other side, it's going to be a tough cover. And Joel was, of course, very high on Chase Davis, their QB. Showed a lot of prowess in the pocket, made a lot of very nice plays against Kinston, and there are a lot of things that can translate to winning football and potentially getting through December.
Obviously, last year they finished with a 6-6 record, so it doesn't look like the best record on paper. But they return 17 starters, and of course, you're talking about the guys they've added, including the Green Central linemen as well. The team is just loaded on skill position wise. There's so many weapons. It seemed like a different guy was scoring every 2 minutes against Kinston last week. Zach, have you seen Rose at all in preseason or 7-on-7, and are you as high on them as we are?
Yeah, and I'd say I agreed with the coaches poll just based off what Jacksonville one did last year, and two that they've made some additions as well. They got Montez Jimenez from White Oak across town, so he's another addition to an already loaded backfield that they have, and the style of offense they run is just a lot of teams have a really hard time having the bodies on the outside to kind of defend Jacksonville's pitch option game that they do that Bill Williams has run for years now. And as far as Rose goes, I mean. I've felt, and I've said this to Coach Bland, and I really feel this way. Like only Rose can beat Rose if they are on their game. I mean, it's the penalties, it's the after the whistle stuff, it's the stuff that they can control, which is kind of the maddening thing because on a talent level, I think as good as absolutely as good as anybody I've seen this preseason. They got a great opener with Northern Nash, so that'll be a good test here right off the bat as we head into Friday. And I'm fascinated to see this team. They have had slow starts the last 2 years. They were the 30th seed, I think, 2 years ago, and still found a way to make a deep playoff run. So it feels like a team that is always playing their best football in November. The question for me is, can they avoid those long road trips to Fayetteville, to other places, and be a higher seed this year? And it certainly feels like, from a talent standpoint, they absolutely can. Can they stop themselves from, negating those big plays that they're creating on both sides of the ball? And absolutely, I think it's Jacksonville, Rose, and then everybody else in the Big Carolina heading into the season as far as contention goes for the conference.
I think the way that they schedule non-conference is kind of two-pronged because, like, one, I think it helps them get ready for November, but two, like, if they're not at their sharpest early on, it's going to really affect their seeding because they're playing Northern Nash, Laney, Havelock, and Mill Creek. So, and that's a loaded schedule. So if you're right, Zach. If they're not firing all cylinders early, it's going to mess up, I think, the long-term outlook for the team. They really need to do well in the regular season to get those games at home and in the playoffs. Laieke, they've had some issues beating Conley lately, and Conley finished second last year because they beat Rose. What's the situation with Conley this year, and do you think that that streak might be ending this year? What are you thinking?
For Conley, I think that they're gonna have to find some guys to make plays at wide receiver. They're a younger group this year, but any Nate Connor coach team, I have the utmost respect for him and their staff. They always do a great job of maximizing the talent that they have. But similarly to what you just mentioned about Rose's non-conference schedule, Conley also opens the season with a very difficult non-conference schedule with a lot of very solid defenses. You mentioned Laney; that'll be their opener this week in Wilmington. The Northeastern comes to town, and later in September, Garner with AJ Randall Company will also be coming to Conley. So that's three, and then add Farmville Central, Aiden Grifton, and County. So that's five teams that are all very solid to really good, especially defensively. So they do have their work cut out for them, but I know that the Conley coaching staff will maximize the talent that they have.
Zach, any thoughts on Conley this year?
Yeah, it was interesting to me. I mean, Like and I were both at their scrimmage with Tarboro, and I had heard that they were going to be like bad coming into the year. But I mean, when I saw them line up with Tarboro, and that's as physical a team as you're going to play, especially from a smaller classification, like to me, I thought they held their own. I think defensively, it's not going to be as steep of a fall off as some might expect. I was surprised to see them pick third in that preseason poll above New Bern, above South Central. I probably still put them above South Central, but above New Bern, I was surprised by. And the fact is, they have to find, to Leica's point, some playmakers. They lose Cabell to Rose, which, when that week arrives, I'm sure there will be some social media back and forth there between the two fan bases, as there usually is. And they obviously lose Cabell's brother, who's now at Johnson C. Smith, who graduated. So it's a test right off the bat, having to go to Wilmington and play Laney. But I think in the game like this, where Laney's coming in with the new coach, like sometimes when you're at home, the pressure it's almost worse. like the pressure can be worse to kind of win that game and not start 0-1. So we'll see how Laney can kind of handle that challenge. I'm interested to see how it goes for Conley. Like I said, Northeastern, Farmville Central, Garner, and Aiden Grifton in the non-con. So it'll certainly be interesting and some big tests there in the early going. But defensively, I think they'll be fine. It's just, to me, can they score points, especially with some of the offenses they're going to play early, and give themselves a fighting chance in these games.
Yeah, and that Nate Connors stat is really good. So whatever this team's max potential is, just physically speaking, they're pretty likely to hit that, and they usually do under that staff there. Let's go over to New Bern and South Central. So New Bern 6-6 last year. I think they lost some guys like what's your outlook on them? And were you also surprised that they were not ranked ahead Conley in that poll?
I too was a little bit surprised by that. I think everybody out east and even across the state knows of New Bern's pedigree over the years. Uh, for me, this group is kind of a mystery this year. I'm not fully sure of like where they could finish. I know that usually they will compete with all of the teams that were picked ahead of them, and they've had their fair share of victories against all those programs. But they did lose a few to transfer to other areas of the state, and I saw that they had a solid preseason, and they'll be a tough team to beat when the time comes. Coach Saxby's had a lot of talent over his time there and at Hereford County. And I still think that they have a potential to compete with a lot of the teams in the conference.
Yeah, it would be foolish to ever doubt a team like the Auburn team from Craven County like that, because they always seem to find a way to put it together. They're not ever gonna really bottom out, I think. So I think while this might not be as high as some of their past highs, it's still going to be a decent year for them. Zach, if you had a win total in mind for New Bern, what would you put it at?
Yeah, I was just looking at the schedule, kind of trying to put it in my head. I feel like they're right around. I'd put them in about the 5-5, 6-4 range for me, just given some of the challenging teams they play in the non-con. I'll be interested to see how it goes with Havelock week 2. They're not in the same league anymore, so they play early instead of late, and they open with New Hanover. The question for me is, how have they improved defensively? Because that's what really killed them in conference play. They gave up 67 points. You can make your 6-7 jokes, kids. To Jacksonville last year. And offensively, they've lost some firepower as well. A couple of their receivers, quarterback Terrence McCormick is not walking through that door. So Carvin Magwood is going to be the guy offensively, the running back who's back, and they call him Duke, and he's been really good. But he's going to have to carry this offense, at least in the early going, until they kind of find some of those guys who can make plays in space like New Bern's done in previous years. It's going to be, I would think, a little more run heavy, at least early in the year, than it's been in the past. But they got to figure it out defensively, because in conference play, it really slipped on the back end, and they were getting beat on some big plays. So if they can handle those things, if they've tightened them up, I've not seen them in scrimmage action at all. They've been pretty much in the Raleigh area, so kind of outside of the 252 as far as preseason stuff goes. But I was able to go on day one of practice, and just feel like they need to figure it out defensively if they're going to make noise this year.
Well, speaking of defense, that's one thing I'm really excited for at South Central. They have maybe the best edge rusher in the region in Justin Blow. And there's another edge rusher as well, like you might be able to help me out with his name, but he's pretty good on the other side as well. And then the defensive backfield, they returned 15 interceptions from last year. Laieke, what do you think about the South Central team and specifically the defense?
We both were at Rose, and that was the first of the 3 scrimmages when they played against Bird T. Justin Blow wreaked havoc, quickly getting in the back.
Was not blockable. They cannot block him.
Bird T had no answer for him. They really just showed a lot of potential there. But the last few years for South, they've always gotten off to a strong start. But when conference play hit, they kind of fell apart and weren't able to finish the season the way they start. So that's like a point. That is a major point of emphasis for them if they want to have a very successful season. They're going to have to get a game or two against the teams that they're, at least supposed to compete with or even defeat. Uh, but they're grouped with a lot of weapons. I thought Ezra Meacham at wideout looked very good in that scrimmage as well. Caught a touchdown pass late in the first half. Uh, they didn't, if I'm not mistaken, they had their backup QB playing, so they'll when healthy they've always had talented rosters, and they're a team that's capable of doing good things, but they have to be able to sustain it throughout the year instead of having one like first half good, second half bad. Like that can't happen.
I think they were wearing like numbers that didn't match in the scrimmage to what their roster is. I think that the other edge rusher I'm talking about is Caden Harmon, but don't hold me to that. He's listed at 6'3", 190. That looks about like the guy I was watching. But regardless of what his name is, he's got a pretty good. Justin Blow's got a pretty good partner on the other side of that defensive line. So excited about their defense. Zach, do you know anything about their offense, and what are you thinking of them in general?
Yeah, thinking that in year two with Ryan Bowie that they can take another step this year in contending. They have an interesting non-con. They're not at home till week three. They go to Kinston and Farmville Central to start. For those interested in storylines, he Ryan Bowie coaching against his own brother in Kinston and what I'm dubbing the Bowie Bowl. So that's a little week one storyline for you, just right off the bat. And it is Caden Harmon, by the way, 6'3", 190. So he's listed at the senior.
He's pretty
And then
good
Justin
too.
Blow, Justin Blow, 6'4", 225 senior. So it's really, up to those two guys to kind of wreak havoc and see if that can create some plays and maybe some short fields for them offensively, because that's kind of where the questions are for me with South Central going into the year is just can they put up points? Can they, stay in these games where, last year to Laike's point, they had the hot start. They were 3-0 to open the year, and then conference play hit and it was not as fun. So that's my question. They kind of hit some schools that they're playing Kinston and Farmville, schools that are obviously smaller than they are as far as student body size, not necessarily size wise, but can they can they sustain the momentum if they get wins in those games early and take it into conference play? Last year, 1-4 in the league, and you got to find a way to get to 3-3 or at least 2-4. Or my math's off. 2-3 or 3-2 in the league. I'm adding teams to the Big Carolina that don't exist. So that's the question to me, and we'll see year two with Coach Bowie if they can kind of take that next step.
All right, before we go quickly, we're gonna make a pick in the Big Carolina 6A7A. I'm going with J.H. Rose. You guys go ahead.
I'll go
Uh,
Jacksonville.
I am going to take Rose. I believe for me, Rose getting their main non-conference and conference games at home, I think is a huge advantage. And when they're very good, that is a very tough place to play. October 9th will be a fantastic matchup when them and Jacksonville play.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
They do get
Great,
Jacksonville and Conley both at home, so.
yeah, great individual matchup between Dominic Williams, Jacksonville corner, and then really any Rose receiver, but specifically Jalake Parson. That's gonna be a fun one. We're gonna jump over to the Coastal 5A, 6A. I think the only teams we're dealing with out of 252 in this conference is Havelock and Croatan, or Havelock, Croatan, West Carteret. I think are all 252 to us. Yeah. Well, we're mostly gonna talk about Havelock here, guys, because Havelock is they're coming off a 7-6 season, so they kind of had some struggles early, but they ended up putting together a decent little playoff run there. They return a lot of people. Croatan does have their best player back as well, off an 11-2 season. Are we thinking Havelock has a chance of winning it this year, or is Croatan and then also Northside Jacksonville from the 910, or are they going to have something to say about that?
I'll just say, like, this is the most wide open league to me in the entire 252. I really could see any situation where Croatan, Havelock, or Northside come away winning this league. I think Croatan is being slept on statewide, and I don't really understand it necessarily. I know a lot of it is off of Cannon McBride, and if he gets hurt, what would how would they
Mhm.
What would happen to them? How did they bounce back? But I think they're being slept on. I really do. They made their deepest run in school history last year. They were a perennial 500 team until last year, but I think they have the horses to sustain it. They also have a lineman who's going to Coastal Carolina, so they have Division I talent on this team, and I think McBride is a Division I talent as well. He might be in basketball too. So to me, like they're the ones who can kind of maybe surprise some people around the state. North side with Reginald Gray the third. He goes by 3J Gray. If you see his nickname on Instagram or on social media, what have you. So to me, like the games between those three, I mean, it may very well be a three-way tie for the league itself, Joel, because like these three teams are all going to be
That's what it
fun to
was last
watch.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, and I could see it again. Like Havelock's loaded. Feels like they figured some things out as the year went, and they lost in the playoffs on a walk-off field goal to Croatan. Otherwise, they might have, been in the Eastern Finals or, continued that playoff run. So it's a really fun league to me. Like if you like, those three teams are all going to be awesome to watch this year. I'm excited to see them.
I'm assuming the person that hit that field goal was Cannon McBride because he hit 10
It
last year
was,
as a quarterback. He
yeah,
threw for 2,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions. He's also this prolific kicker, amazing basketball player. He's going to be in contention for just overall male athlete of the year this year, just provided he stays healthy and everything. Uh, just an exceptional talent. And also the running back, I'm guessing you pronounce his name Boucher. How do you pronounce his name?
it
Andrew.
is. Yep, it's
Andrew
just like
Boucher.
Bobby Boucher. Yep.
Just like Bobby Boucher, just like the Water Boy. Okay, so he had
Oh yeah.
1,700 yards last year and 36 total touchdowns. I mean, but that's just those two guys alone. They're like, I mean, it doesn't even matter really what the rest of the team has. They're going to be competitive no matter what. Uh, I'm just kind of thinking Havelock with how totally young they were last year, and everybody they're getting a year of experience. I don't know, I kind of like Havelock this year. Of course, Northside Jacksonville is going to be a threat in 5A as well. Uh, where you at in all this? Is it these three teams and then everyone else, or is there a clear favorite out of these three? What are you thinking?
I share the same sentiments as Zach, where I believe this to be a three-team race as well. Uh, I I do like Havelock more this year than I did last. As you mentioned, the team was still very young, and they actually did a great. They started season 0-5, if I'm not mistaken, and I went out to that first Croatan matchup, and I think it was 14-7, something like that. But they did a great job to close the season out and returned most of their team. They'll have Caleb Montagna and Andrew Williams at QB. They're trying to figure out who will be the starter there, but they both play both sides of the ball. I believe Lloyd Jones at wideout is a potential breakout candidate. I think he's someone that could have a big season for Havelock, and
And a DB.
Michael Gatling in the
Yep.
backfield. Uh, but these three teams are going to be very competitive against each other, and I definitely look forward to all of the matchup.
Well, I'll give the question for all three. The question for Havelock is going to be the quarterback thing. Croatan, I think 6 of their top 7 tacklers graduated from last year. The north side, I think it's the general size of the team, the general size in the trenches there is the questions there. But besides those, I mean, these three teams are going to have big years, and it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. It would not surprise me if it ended up being another three-way tie at the top of this conference. One other team in 252 before we leave off this conference is West Carteret. They were 7-5 last year. Pretty good season. Obviously, they were behind those three we were just talking about. Any thoughts on West Carteret this year?
Be curious to see how they replace Tanner Payne, who I would have to imagine is right up there in school history as far as all-time quarterbacks that they've had. He was a great leader for them on top of being a great passer. And to me, that's the big question. And I'm trying to see who they open with. My computer's being slow, but that's the question to me is can they replace him at quarterback? So I think it's going to be tough to replace him both as far as a leadership standpoint and a production standpoint. They do open with Jacksonville, and then they got the mullet bucket rivalry game with East Carteret week 2, West versus East. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be, week 1 is going to be tough, like for all the reasons we just mentioned with Jacksonville. But then, we'll find out, when they play their rivals week 2 and get that game there. But probably taking a step back from last year. And just with the three team, just with what we mentioned with Croatan, Havelock, Northside all being loaded, they're right there. They're still a team that could win a playoff game, that could, get to round 2 or round 3, but still a step behind those 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, not many 6'4" quarterbacks going around. That's for sure.
No.
Like, any thoughts on West Carteret?
I'll give a player to watch. Jawan Tripp at wide receiver is a kid that could have a big season. Who's also a standout basketball player for them. They're a team that likes to throw. If they can find a decent production at QB, I still think they'll be a solid team.
Outstanding name on this team, by the way, Maxim Thayer. Great name. That's a great name. Okay.
I wonder if his full name is Maximus or something. I don't know.
That's they shortened it for the roster. That'd be interesting. All
right,
Maxim's
a great name.
Quick pick the champion of the conference. I'm gonna go with Havelock. What about you guys?
You go first, like.
It'd be proper for everyone to have a different one of the 3 of us.
That's what I was thinking.
Fuck, I guess I will make a case for Croatan. I think with their returning QB and running back tandem, along with a solid offensive line, Croatan will find some solid players at wideout to where they'll have a very good season. And because McBride is so effective in on offense and on special teams are going to have to drive the length of the field to score touchdowns, and I think that'll be tough to do on Croatan.
I will go north side for posterity, just so we can have all 3 represented, because it is entirely possible that they all tie for the conference crown. And I'll just say that, the Croatan is I'll reiterate, they are a sleeper to come out of the East in 5A. I know we'll get to Wilson Hunt in a little bit, but wouldn't shock me at all if it's Croatan and Hunt in the 5A Eastern Finals. With the talent that the Cougars have, a great senior class, and a program that's continued to take the next step each year, it just wouldn't shock me if it's them and Wilson Hunt coming, battling for that spot in the 5A Eastern Finals, or in the 5A State Championship, rather.
Well, speaking of Hunt, and I don't know what Wilson Hunt is, I know what Hunt is. Hunt is in the Big East 5A 6A with Northern Nash. That team we're talking about, Rose, playing week 1. Northern Nash won the conference last year at 11-2 overall, 6-0 in the conference. Hunt finished 12-3 overall and went to the 5A State Championship game where they lost to Crest. This conference is also known for having Rocky Mount, Southern Nash. They also have Fike, CPA Cock, and Southern Wayne. Northern Nash, pretty serious contender in 6A, I would say. Hunt obviously is a contender in 5A. Do you think this could be a conference that gets 2 teams represented in December, or are you thinking that one's more likely than the other to go to the state championship?
If you asked me this a few weeks ago, I would certainly say that this team has a chance to get 2 for sure. I know what Northern Nash's pedigree is a team that's been in the state championship game in recent years, been to like 4th round regional finals. They didn't really look as impressive at the high school OT Jamboree at Wake Forest last week. But I believe that as the season goes on, they will be a more improved squad, and when they have to solve the QB competition, and get standout wide receiver Cam Freeman healthy. But I'm a huge fan of Miles Eatman in the backfield. He had a big season last year for them, and if they're going to go far, it's going to be because he runs the ball effectively and as consistently as he did last year.
Here's the positive pitch for Northern Nash. So between Miles Eatman, Press McDaniel, and then Robinson, they have about almost 3,000 yards of rushing production back from last year. Cameron Freeman, who you mentioned, also a standout basketball player, big 6'4", maybe 6'5" receiver. He tore his ACL in basketball, Laieke. So we don't know if he's going to be coming back. It'd be helpful if he came back because, like you were kind of getting at, the passing game just is leaving a lot to be desired right now. I'm not sure if it's a quarterback thing or a receiver thing. I don't really know. The line's pretty good with Jenkins up there as a sophomore. They have some decent size there. So I think there's still going to be a very dominant rushing team. Obviously, if they get into some kind of a shootout deal in the playoffs, that's where it's going to start concerning me in terms of that passing game. Defensively, they returned a bunch of their leaders from last year. I think they returned like all 7 of their top tacklers from last year, so they're going to be fine there. It's going to be that passing game question. That's really going to kind of be, the decider if this team can get to a state championship or just have another really good year. I think that's going to be the question, is that because I don't think they're going to drop off much at all. I think that the question is, like, are they going to stay, like a third round kind of team, or is it going to be a breakthrough this year? Zach, have you seen them at all this year, and what are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody as I was looking through this conference. I haven't seen anybody scrimmage yet. But you have to think that Northern National only gave up 81 points all year last year. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, defensively what they bring back. You probably know better than I do. But
Well, they bring
yeah,
back
no
their
reason
top
not.
7 guys on defense.
Oh wow. Okay. So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you would think defensively they'll be right there. But like we said, face a great test week 1 with Rose. I mean, and what could be maybe one of the better games we have in the 252 going into week 1 of high school football. So be interested to see that. How can Rose stop Eatman and also, make plays themselves? Because, they have all these big play threats, but the caveat of that is if you're scoring quick, you're giving Eatman the ball. And, on the other side, it's wearing down the defense. So, yeah, to me, I mean, we kind of talked about Hunt. Like, it feels like, they're going to be right in it in 5A once again. I know, pretty much feels like a consensus opinion everywhere I've seen. So feels like we're going to get a pretty similar standings, in my opinion, in this conference again. Rocky Mount goes to Tarboro week 1, so we'll see how they fare with the Vikings. So I know we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, that's to return their top 7 defensively. No reason to think Nash ain't still in it in the 6A with Rose Jacksonville and Middle Creek if they brought guys back as well, and then Hunt in the 5A, like I said before, with possibly contending with all 3 of those coastal teams to come out of the East.
Well, the good news is we're gonna get a lot of answers early between the Northern Nash Rose game in week 1, and Hunt's also playing Tarboro in week 2.
Yeah.
So we're gonna find out some answers pretty quick here. As of right now, I would say, just based off the scrimmages, we could be wrong. Scrimmages could mean nothing, but if I'm Northern Nash, I'm not really looking forward to getting into a shootout with Rose on Friday.
No.
If it's a shootout, I'm taking Rose to win that shootout. Just based off how we saw things in scrimmages. So Hunt wise, let's go a little bit deeper into them. Kind of a weird offseason, right? So they returned, or they were supposed to return all this talent from last year's state championship runner-up team. Some of the talent ends up leaving for reasons I don't really still understand, to be honest with you. So their top linebacker, Judah Harris, is now at Southeast Raleigh. Their top defensive lineman, CJ Dickerson, is now at Clayton. These guys had huge numbers last year. They were seen, obviously, because they went to a state championship game. So I'm not sure if this is a thing where they think they'll be seen more at the schools closer to Raleigh. I'm not sure. To me, they were being seen already. And then we had the thing with Mez Harris, who's their star quarterback, who rushed for 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns last year and threw for 1,500 yards. He went to Millbrook for a little bit in the offseason, and he wasn't going to play quarterback there. He was going to play defensive back and some receiver. Then he decides to go back to Hunt to lead the team again this year, which is a really good sign for the team. Laieke, what do you just make of all the turmoil they've had, or maybe lack thereof, coming off such a great year?
It was a pretty wild series of events with the departures, and as you mentioned, the departure and then come back for Harris, losing those 2 defensive stars, including Dickerson. I thought he was one of the best defensive players I saw play last year, and going to Clayton is obviously a big pickup for them. I still like this team a lot. their only losses last year came to Northern Nash, Tarboro, and in the state championship to Crest. That's, you can't fault the team for losing to those three teams and returning the level of offensive production that they're going to have will be massive for them. I really like Dorian Jones in the backfield. I think he's one of the leading rushers in the East, maybe in the entire state potentially. Jaden Newsom had some big plays in the scrimmage against Union Pines at the first high school jamboree, including the game-winning touchdown, where Mez Harris, the snap goes behind him. He has to run back, get it, roll to his left, and find him in the final seconds. Mez has always had that big playability, and I thought that they looked a lot better when they were going tempo, and I think that's a recipe for success this season if they want to get back to state championship contention.
Well, one thing that could get Hunt fans feeling pretty good this year would be a win against Tarboro in week 2. Obviously, they didn't beat Tarboro last year. We'll get to Tarboro more later, but Tarboro returns just 3 starters from last season. So, but imagine with everything that happened in the offseason for Hunt, if they can get a win over Tarboro in week 2, that would be a very big relief for that fan base. In terms of the rest of the conference, so Rocky Mount, Southern Nash, Fike, there's some turmoil at Fike in the offseason, some stuff going on there. CB Aycock, I know they lost a player as well, and Southern Wayne still trying to figure things out in this loaded conference. Any thoughts on the remaining teams here, Laieke?
I honestly think Rocky Mount got overlooked a lot last year in the conference. They won 9 games and made it to the 4th round of the state, if I'm not mistaken, losing to Northside Jacksonville. This is a team that is still very young. They're going to return Jason Battle, QB, a lot of very good players defensively. The way they have their option attack, they're going to try and control pace of play, control possession. I believe their only losses were to Tarboro, Northern Nash, and Hunt, and then in the playoffs to Northside Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's right.
Team to watch for sure. In Fike's case, Fike, I believe, has I would say the most talented QB in the entire conference, and Sam Finch, just committed to Elon, was a very prolific pass for them last year, and I believe that he will have the same success again this season. It will just be about, can Fike generate enough stops defensively to be able to contend with the top of the conference?
Rocky Mount's win at Northeast Guilford in the 3rd round last year is one of the most impressive wins of the playoffs. They rolled up to Northeast Guilford and just blew them out, and it left a lot of people in the triad stunned because, like you said, Rocky Mount was just kind of overlooked last year. And it tells you, that might tell you a lot about just how good Hunt and Northside were last year. The fact that they kind of handled Rocky Mount themselves. So that'll be interesting. Do we want to make a pick in this conference, guys? I think I'm ready to make a pick. Are you guys ready?
I'll say Northern Nash again.
I'm gonna stick with Northern Nash just because of the running game. But Hunt would not surprise me. Go ahead, Laieke.
I'm going to go with Northern Nash too. I still, despite they do have to solve a lot of things, but I'm gonna give the edge to them. Although their toughest their toughest conference games will be on the road this time. Northern Nash will have to go to Hunt, so that'll be a big game.
And what I'll say is, if Hunt just returned the entire team like we thought they were going to, they would have been my pick.
No question.
So just that whole thing is just so weird. I'm not sure why that all happened, but is what it is.
Not for nothing, Joel. Mez Harris, I don't see him on Hunt's Max Prep roster. That doesn't mean he's not there, but
he's there. No,
make of that what you will.
He's there.
Did I miss him?
Unless he left within the past week.
Under
he's under Xavier Harris.
Okay, because he was. I'm not that stupid. I promise. It did say Mez Harris last year. So
no, they changed. They put his government name on there this year.
they got the government name. So I was just like, looking up and down for it. Okay,
he's still there.
Right,
he's still
there. Corrected. All right, thank you for it. I was like, I'm not seeing him, guys. I'm like, but okay.
Yeah, he's there. He's there. All right. We're gonna shift over to the Northeastern 3A, 4A, 5A. This was kind of a surprising one, like last year. I kind of picked Northeastern to win the conference last year. It ends up being a tie between Martin County and Currituck County. Um, Northeastern finished in third. Hereford and Pasquotank finished tied for fourth. And First Flight kind of rounded it out at 0-5 there at the bottom. Um, are you still surprised, like, that Northeastern didn't win this conference last year? And then are you thinking that will change this year?
I think it surprised a lot of people that they didn't win the conference with the type of roster that they had last year. I think they lost to Currituck and then beat Marco, but they lost to somebody else. I forgot what the second conference loss was.
I think it was Pasquotank.
Yes, and Pasquotank one of their best seasons in a long time, and still somehow finished tied for fourth in the conference.
Weird. It was a weird year.
That conference was
Yeah.
probably the wildest of all of the 252 conferences. But for me, I mean, I find it hard to pick against Northeastern again. I know we wait until the end to do our picks, but they did return a great group of players. We saw them. I've seen them twice in the preseason. Now we were all at Rosen, and I actually went up to Northeastern on Thursday night to see them play IC Norcom from Chesapeake, Virginia, 757. And they looked better in that scrimmage than they did against North Pitt on Tuesday night.
Okay.
Zach Ishman is a very talented QB. He missed a few throws here and there on Tuesday and even on Thursday night as well. But he's still a very talented player and has a lot of weapons around him. You know, the recent NC State commit.
I would say he has the most pure arm talent of anyone in 252. It's just a matter of the consistency.
Yeah, it's hard to go against, and his production too. It's hard to go against his production, but he has a lot of weapons at his disposal. The NC State commit Tivon Bell, big wide receiver, really just a matchup problem for anybody. Aiden Holly as well, and then Damari McNeil, who plays both sides of the ball, will be if
he's a load to bring down.
He's a major X factor if he's healthy for Northeastern. When he's healthy, they're a very tough team to stop. And then Makai Williams on the defensive line is a monster. It's very hard to cover.
Yeah. On paper, it's just so many really, really good names for a 3A football team. It's just a matter of kind of like Rose, what we were talking about earlier. Like, they just can't shoot themselves in the foot. If they do what they're supposed to do, I think they'll win this conference. Zach, I know some of these teams are a little bit stretching outside your area. Do you have any thoughts on this conference?
Yeah, just to add with Northeastern, because I was going to ask Laieke the same thing. Like, did Northeastern look any better when you saw them than when I saw them? Because, I mean, there were defensive issues against North Pitt. I mean, they really, the coaches were laying into them pretty good. I mean, I was standing right within earshot, and a lot of it could not be used on television. I'll put it to you that way. You know, I just, I think a lot of Ishman and, you know, the fact that he's been here so long and hasn't transferred or any of that stuff, like, I give him a lot of credit. It just felt like he was running for his life out there and kind of trying to do it all himself, which, you know, felt like he may have to. When I saw them Tuesday, like, I was surprised they struggled with North Pitt as much as they did. So maybe
definitely getting hit a lot more than you'd like in the scrimmage.
Yeah, like, I was like, Northeastern. I'm like, wow, okay. So that was surprising to me, which made me think this conference is a little more open than I initially thought before I got to Rose the other night. So, you know, to me, that's I don't know. It felt like some defensive cracks there, at least in my opinion. I think a lot of Martin County. I think a lot of what, you know, they've kind of built with Coach Wheeler now, and he's got his guys and kind of, you know, big on establishing culture, which I know buzzword, you know, but it's I just think a lot of them. I think a lot of what they're building, and I'm just curious, like, how, you know, how Northeastern stacks up, because they just looked pretty beatable the other night. I mean, this whole league is just I mean, it is tough. I mean, 5 out of 6 500 or above, and 4 out of 6, you know, 8-3, 8-4 or better. So it's a tough neighborhood for sure. Even if it's in a corner of the state that I know a lot of people overlook and don't talk about. But I just, yeah, the question to me is, can Northeastern play defense? Because the other night I was not impressed personally. So I think this league's a little more wide open than people expect.
It's funny. That's always been the question for Northeastern's. Like every year, it's like, oh gosh, they have all these guys on offense, but the defense can be able to catch up. So it's kind of funny that how cyclical some things are. For Martin County, I would say they might have the best defensive player in Jordan Matheson, linebacker, just committed to ECU. I do think they're going to miss a guy, Mario Larry, who did a lot for them last year. He had like 11 interceptions last year as a senior. So guys that just have those kind of instincts are hard to replace. Laieke, what's your pitch for Martin County this year?
To piggyback off of what you just said, Mario Larry is a massive loss and graduated. I believe he's playing college baseball at Pembroke. He's also a standout basketball player as well. For Martin County, they're a team that was still very young despite losing guys like Josh Shepard and Mario Larry and Quali Bass Knight. You mentioned Jordan Matheson, talented player, and for this team, he'll play both sides of the ball. But I'm sure when he gets to ECU, he'll be defense for sure.
Yep.
Great linebacker, just great instincts over there. I would say some other players to watch for them. Jordan's younger brother, Chance Mathewson, is a kid that could be a breakout candidate as well, sophomore. Jaquavius Robertson, a linebacker, is another solid player. And then Pete Moore, if he's healthy at QB, being able to distribute, take care of the ball. This is a team that could be very solid, and then also Noah Congleton could be a potential threat in the passing game, although they're a primary run team. Martin County and Northeastern played a low-scoring defensive struggle last year. That, if I'm not mistaken, I think Northeastern came in and beat them 14-13. So, I mean, those games are always very entertaining when they go at it, and this year will be no different.
Curious, like last year, pretty senior heavy. Jamie Dance is their quarterback. He had a good year, and their defense was loaded with seniors last year. This year, they're going to lean on Caden Smith, who's a rising junior running back and defensive player as well. He rushed for 830 yards last year and 12 touchdowns, and he's their top returning tackler I see here. So definitely know about Caden Smith at Currituck County. Any thoughts on these other teams here? Like they got Hertford, Pasquotank, and First Flight.
I want to piggyback and talk about Pasquotank and how great of a season they had last year. Even though conference-wise, they didn't really finish the season the right way, but they still had one of their best seasons in a long time, and of course, knocked off Northeastern. I think another player to watch is Josiah Bennett. Will be their leading rusher and passer for the year at QB. I think if they're going to have another successful season, it will go through him. I mean, their lone losses. I mean, they only lost to Marco, Hertford County, Currituck by 1, and Kinston by 2 touchdowns in the playoffs. And with their non-conference schedule, they're certainly capable of having another good season.
For Hertford County, they were 6-6 last year. They're returning quarterback Rucker Nixon. They're returning their top 3 rushers, which includes Nixon and also Aiden Everett. They also have their top receiver back in Kanari Tan. So Hertford County, to me, in terms of like just the pure returning players, they have as much in this conference as Northeastern does. It's just kind of like the baseline they're coming from, right? What kind of jump can these guys take? As returning starters with the experience they have. Defense is kind of a mixed bag, returners and non-returners. So I do think Hertford County would be my team. If there is a team that's going to make a climb up the standings this year, it'd be Hertford County. But I am going to take Northeastern to win this conference, and I'll give it to you guys for your picks.
I'll go out on a limb and chomp. I'll take the Gators. I do think they need to find some offensive playmakers beyond Mathewson with the guys they've lost. That's the question to me. But I'll roll with the boys from Williamston. Why not?
I hate picking against Martin County, but I'm not going to question what Northeastern has built over there out east. They've always been a consistent winning team, and I think off the back of a disappointing conference slate last year. I believe they'll be ready to go this season. The $1 million question though is when it gets to December, how will they find a way to get over the hump?
I just can't
Yeah,
shake what
well,
I saw Tuesday. Like I can't shake what I saw
yeah.
defensively from them.
The other thing is like there's not to me a Kinston this year, in 3A East where it's just like has this overwhelming unit that Kinston had on offense last year. So it's pretty open in 3A East. So we'll see if Northeastern can take advantage of it. Here's a fun one. So the Three Rivers 4A. This is a really fun one. So West Craven, Eastern Wayne, North Pitt, Southwest Edgecombe, North Johnson, Washington, and North Lenore. West Craven won this conference last year. They finished 12-2, 6-0 in conference. They looked pretty good in the playoffs. Obviously, they went in and challenged Reedsville last year and had them on the ropes for a little bit there. Eastern Wayne was very senior heavy last year. They had a great quarterback in Isaiah Oates, who led them to an 8-4 record. North Pitt, like I think, might be a team that we'll talk about some here. It's a potential breakout on the larger scale. And Southwest Edgecombe, a kind of interesting situation here where they're coming off a kind of fourth round run last year. Made a change of head coach because the old coach Carvernell left for Nash Central, and now I think Pooh Ward came in to coach Southwest Edgecombe. Just big picture, Zach or Laieke, what's your read on this league?
Yeah, so and the preseason poll was Eastern Wayne and then West Craven, 1 and 2. And then I want to say actually I want to say it was a tie between West Craven and Southwest Edgecombe for 2. But
West
Eastern
Craven
Wayne was
also
the
with the West Craven also
go
with the
ahead.
new coach, I should say.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna. That was the first thing I was gonna bring up. Dominic Guglielmo takes over for Mike Twitchell, who was at West Craven for quite a bit. And I mean, West Craven came as close as anyone to beating Reedsville last year. I mean, that was quite the playoff game that they had. So,
They
an
certainly
interesting
came
league
closer
to
than
me.
Brevard in the state championship.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, interesting league to me, and it came down to the final night of the regular season last year, and I think it will this year. I think it's a league that is wide open. There are I want to say it's 4 returning coaches and 3 new ones. So a lot of new in this league. You mentioned Southwest with Boo Ward taking over, and Southwest is kind of the X factor to me as far as I feel like Eastern Wayne and West Craven are going to be right there at the end of
Agreed.
the year, and it's going to come down to the 2 of them again. But Southwest, if DJ Mayo can take the next steps, and I like what I saw from him the other night. Trying to think of where I saw him. He was at
One of these scrimmages.
one of these scrimmages. I know they're all blending together after the 6th and 7th one that I've seen. But having Mayo back is huge for Pooh Ward at Southwest. It was a Green Central scrimmage at Jamboree, by the way. If Mayo can come back and lead that team and make plays the way I saw the other night, they can make some noise and throw a wrinkle in this league. But to me, it's going to be Eastern Wayne and West Craven again. With Southwest kind of factoring in North Pitt. North Pitt offensively, I've liked what I've seen as well in a couple of the scrimmages that I've had a chance to see them. Talked about the issues that they gave Northeastern when we were talking about that conference a minute ago. So North Pitt, North Pitt's interesting to me. North Johnson, North Lenore, North Lenore's got a new coach, and they're still kind of building things up at both of those programs. Brian Pascal takes over at Washington. They were at Tarborough's Jamboree for a little bit. And they left kind of early before I got there, so I didn't get a chance to see them. Was hoping to see them there. They looked okay at the Beaufort County Jamboree, but I know Pascal's still kind of getting his guys in there. It seemed like it was a you're on the boat or you're off of it type of off season. So it's maybe more of his guys there in year 2, but still building things to where he wants them to be out in Washington.
I'm thinking it'll be a kind of a rebuild for North Johnson this year, even though they were 6-6 last year. They were pretty senior heavy. The quarterback Caleb Pone kind of was the engine behind that team. He was a senior. North Lenore, I think it's probably still a building process as well. Like I do want to get your thoughts on North Pitt and Southwest Edgecombe because I think not to see spoil my conference pick. I think I'm not going to pick one of the teams that finished top 2 last year. Tell me about your thoughts on these 2 teams.
Zach nailed it with DJ Mayo being back for Southwest Edge being a major factor, and also Andre Downey Jr., their leading rusher, is also back too. So their offense has always been effective when they have at least a couple guys in the run game that can take care of the football, and then from time to time DJ Mayo hit a player 2, big pass player 2. which led to him having a very solid season at QB. We all watched North Pitt this in the last week. In my case, I watched them twice because they were also at Northeastern scrimmage, and they, even though they on the scoreboard lost to Northeastern, I don't feel like it felt like a loss to them for me because they really. Actually, I also saw North Pitt at Havelock too, and Zach.
Mhm.
Yep.
They really. I was really impressed with what I saw from them. They are a team that has always had a lot of talent across the board, but they have not been able to like just put one full season together. It's kind of the situation with South Central to an extent. We talked about that earlier. But Coach CJ Wilson has got obviously has winning pedigree. He's a Super Bowl champion with the Packers. He has Braylon Wilson on defense that will be a big factor for them. And Bryce Cox, the sophomore quarterback, is another potential breakout guy in the 252 that could be play a major role in their success this year. And he made a few very nice throws throughout the preseason. They got some good size at wide receiver and on the offensive line. It's a team that will be competitive with just about everyone in their conference, even in non-conference play too.
For me, I'm going to go ahead and pick Southwest Edgecombe in this conference. It's a quarterback thing for me. Wes Craven and Eastern Wayne lost two just incredible quarterbacks for them that did it for multiple years as dual threat types. I really like Davion Mayo Jr. as a senior this year. I think he's probably going to be kind of a favorite for Conference Player of the Year to me. So I'm going to go with Southwest Edgecombe. What about you guys?
Give me Wes Craven. Year one with Guglielmo, and I just think when I went to their practice, like it really feels like year one with new coaches, you just never know. And he comes in, he's not from North Carolina, he's from New York. But he comes in from out of state, and it feels like he's like put his imprint on the program, but still understands the county rivalry games, like what it means, playing Havelock and New Bern early, which they do. So I mean, you'll know pretty early what kind of team they have. We've gone too long without saying Xavier Cuthbertson's name, so regret that. But he's a guy to watch for Wes Craven, a receiver who can take the top off of defenses. They do miss Davis, but I'm a believer in CJ Person, a quarterback for West Craven. I think he can make sure the drop off is not as steep as it otherwise would be, even though they do lose one of the school's probably better quarterbacks they've ever had. So I'll take them as surprise. I do think it could come down to them in Eastern Wayne at the end of the year. Southwest, just having Mayo back is huge because he could have left. They had a coaching change pretty late. I think it was like April or May that, the coaching change happened. And I give Coach Ward a lot of credit for finding a way to keep Mayo and giving themselves a chance to win the league this year.
I'm going to go with a surprise. I actually am going to go with North Pitt to win the conference.
Okay.
I believe them to be talent-wise across the board with returners. I believe that they have the offense to be able to compete against I think a more wide open conference than people think. The Three Rivers 4A is always talented. The cases that you guys made for your picks were spot on, and those are both teams that are more than capable of winning for sure. But I believe that North Pitt sees that they were tied for second in the conference last year, and they are capable of beating these teams this year. So I'm going to go with the Panthers.
And now that none of us picked Eastern Wayne, they'll win the league.
It's tough. It's tough now. It's tough. It's tough.
But it's pretty open. I agree.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one this year for sure. Now, we're gonna go over to the Eastern Plains 2A, 3A, and I'm gonna preface this by saying I'm still picking Tarboro to win this conference. So everything I'm about to say, do not take it like too bad, Tarboro people. But we're talking about a team in Tarboro. It's coming off a 2A state championship. They return just 3 starters on both sides of the ball there. I'm pretty sure it's the same 3 guys. They're both offense and defense. That 2026 class was one of Tarboro's best classes that they've had and they've had a lot of really good classes. So it's not going to be the same as last year. But I think what's going in their favor is I don't think the rest of this conference is going to be quite the same as last year. Kinston certainly not. I think Aiden Griffin was also senior heavy. I think Green Central and Benningfield still coming up. The one team I kind of think might be an issue might be Farmville Central. Are you guys still expecting Tarboro to win this conference? And just how do you think they'll compare to last year on a big picture look?
I'm going to look into the camera when I say this. Why do people just think Tarboro is going to fall off? I don't understand. I I get it. I know they lost a lot of guys. I know the names aren't as sexy. I know it's not the same Tarboro, but if anything, it's been proven like they just reload. They got guys. They run the T. Everyone buys into it. It's from the middle school on up. I don't know how no one's coach Craddock yet, Coach Jeff Craddock yet. To be honest, but I know
I
he
think he
wants
loves
to
it
be there,
there.
and
Yeah.
he loves it there, and I'm sure it's been. I'm sure there've been offers over the years, but like fade them at your own risk. I just, whether it's to win the league, to win 2A, maybe they drop a regular season game with the non-conference they have. I'll maybe, I'll go as far as to say that, but I feel like people do this, and I've seen plenty of it on Facebook and Instagram, and I love it. I love the banter. I think it's great, but they're going to they're gonna do Tarboro things, and I'm still picking them to win the 2A state title. I'm still picking them to win this league. The names that they lost, they'll be replaced by guys like Carmelo Bullock, Antonio John Jr., Amarian Andrews, and they will just pick up where they left off. So I think you fade Tarboro at your own risk. I've seen it now enough times. They did lose Andrew Harding as one of the key members of their coaching
Yeah.
staff. He's now back at his alma mater in Indiana. So that is a loss as far as organizationally what they do. But fade them at your own risk. Maybe they drop the game to Hunter Havelock, but as far as winning the league, as far as winning, or at least being in the 2A state championship, unless there's someone out west I don't know about, but Joel, you know that part better than I would. But it's going to be Tarboro once again.
In
Rant
two
over.
A, it's gonna be in 2A West. It's mostly gonna be the same thing, same teams over there. It's gonna be Murphy and Starmount, Corbin as well. There's some good teams in 2A West this year. Andrew Harding point's a good point because he was their defensive coordinator. They're replacing him with Syed Murphy, who was coaching at North Edgecombe. He's a Tarboro guy though. He's still a young guy, so that's kind of an interesting hire to me because I'm not sure if Tarboro's ever really had just obvious contingency plan for Jeff Craddock eventually retiring, but maybe if he sticks around for a few more years, 5 more years, and can teach maybe a coach like Syed Murphy a little bit up more how to be leading a program like that, maybe that could be a potential long-term fit as head coach. We don't know. Give us your thoughts on Tarboro.
Honestly, coming off a state championship, they did lose a great senior class, as you mentioned. Cam McDowell Moore was really everything to that team in terms of explosiveness on both sides of the ball, and I believe he'll do very good things at Elon. They had a Tyler Powell, QB, and also on the defensive line that just wreaked havoc. Player, and they do have a lot of new guys in new positions, and even during the preseason, the kid scheduled to be their starter at QB did not even play, and I still think they showed a lot of good things against Conley, and I love that they scrimmage each other at the beginning, so that they can get reps against a quality opponent and vice versa. And I think that scrimmage helped like a lot of those guys get acclimated to new expanded roles. As Zach mentioned, I believe Antonio Drawn will be their guy in terms of production in the backfield. And the Marion Andrews defensively will be massive for them. But yeah, this is the Tarboro pedigree. They've always found a way, even with rosters that have 3 returning starters. I dare anyone to go pick against them. Really, maybe as Zach mentioned, the non-conference schedule, including Rocky Mount, that's a very good, high quality non-conference. and I think that'll get them prepared for going into the rest of the season.
I was in the 7th grade the last time they lost a conference game. I mean, just think
That's
about
crazy.
that. I mean,
That's crazy.
it's been that long, and it's not going to be this year either.
Yeah,
So
I don't think they're going to lose the conference game this year.
no,
I think if they lose, it's going to be a non-conference. Because I do think, generally speaking, I think that this Eastern Plains 2A3 just is generally just going to be down from last year. They just had a really good senior class across the board at all schools.
yep.
One of those seniors was BJ Gardner at Farmville Central. He was their quarterback and do it all on the ground. He had like 30 rushing touchdowns last year. They do have a new quarterback though in Connor Kessler, who I know they're telling me they like him a lot because he's a different kind of player. He can throw the ball, spread the ball a little bit more through the air. So they're confident in him. Replacing BJ Gardner is going to be tough, but the program's on a good trajectory. They were a 4th-round team last year. Probably the team that will look the most different, guys, is Kinston. It's just I don't know how you can go replacing what they have to replace on offense. Laieke, tell us about Kinston and what they're even thinking they're going to try to do without Tyree Copper and Jones there.
I mean, as you mentioned, a team that just played in the state championship with 2 Division I talents at wide receiver and Tyree Copper and Brennan Chambers. Genesis Wiggins in the backfield now at Fayetteville State. Tyler Jones at Mars Hill, if I'm not mistaken. That was a lot of production. And I think people also have to remember Kinston did not get off to the greatest. They were 3-3 through 6 games when they started that run, and then only lost to Tarboro after that before they, of course, lost to Shelby in the state championship. So they even with the talent they had, they also had to figure some things out early. And I believe this year's team will be the same way. They're going to have to figure themselves out early with a completely different roster. That is the massive caveat with this. They do still have a lot of talented guys. Their new QB will be Michael Eaton, a sophomore. I saw them multiple times. I know, obviously, against Rose didn't look great, but against Havelock, when I saw them on about 10 days or so ago, I thought Michael Eaton made a lot of very nice throws in that scrimmage. You've got Justin Gooding defensively. He'll still be a solid contributor for them. But they do have a lot of kids that will be in an expanded role this year, and they do have a lot to figure out early. It'll be a completely different team.
In terms of the team, you think challenging for that second place spot? Are you thinking it's a Farmville Central thing, or is it maybe a Green Central thing? I think that in terms of just like pure stars back, they might have the most in this conference. What do you guys think in terms of like that second place team?
Tight for me between Green Central and Farmville Central. Kessler, while new to the starting role, has at least played in games for Farmville Central in the past, so it's not like nobody. But Green Central has Josh Stentner, who's literally the only returning quarterback in the entire league.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
so I'll give Green Central a slight edge, but I'll say it's pretty close between the 2 next door neighbors. I would say I'll give Green Central a slight edge going into the year. I liked how they looked the other night when I went to their jamboree, and Farmville. I mean, yeah, like Kessler takes over, and I just feel like they're going to more. He's more of a pocket passer, whereas Gardner was more of a dual threat guy. So the offense will change around him a little bit, but I'll say Green Central, then Farmville, but it's pretty close, pretty neck and neck for me.
At the bottom of the conference, Beddingfield made a new hire this offseason, bringing in Joshua Sims, who's an alum of Beddingfield. So I know they're excited for that. I just think it's going to be a little bit of a process for Beddingfield to get back to where they want to be. Laieke, who's your second team in this conference?
I like how Zach laid it out between GC and Farmville. I would lean towards Farmville a little bit based on what they have returning around Connor Kessler, mainly Zamarion Brown, another talented running back that Coach Ron Cook has implored the folks that he will be a guy that will have a big season this year for his squad. And I mean, as a freshman, had close to 600 yards rushing. I think that he will be a 1,000-yard rusher this year for sure. And I also like they also added Jack Beeman, 6'8" wide receiver from Community Christian that could potentially be a factor in this offense. We don't know how he'll be utilized, but
I have an idea of how he'll be utilized. Probably in the red zone.
Yeah, red
I was
zone.
gonna say, how about in the low post for basketball too?
Yeah.
But
is Coach Wilford like okay with this? Like, is his post player just going out there and catching jump balls in football? Is he okay with this?
Technically, it's practicing rebounding when you think about it.
Oh yeah, he's got box out and go up and get it. Okay.
I suppose.
Yeah, Brian Dixon was playing football last year for him too. That was a big loss for the offense too. By the way, he was a talented play for him. That is, but Beeman will be an X factor for them in some way in this offense. But I like Farmville, but I honestly think across the board, it could be anybody because I think everybody knows this conference is full of surprises in every sport. So even with Aiden Grifton, Kamani Nelson, and Loyalty Fuller returning for them, they're still a talented group. And Coach Wingate is a fantastic coach, great staff over there.
Yep.
I mean, it's across the board. I think it's up for grabs, but I would take Farmville. I'd lean Farmville.
Okay.
It's a conference with great coaching staffs,
yep.
but totally new teams. Like it's a really interesting league to look at for that reason, because who does the best job with their mostly new parts for just about all these teams.
It's just a weird kind of like confluence of like it seems like the 2027 class is not the greatest for all these programs. It just happens that they all are just on a similar trajectory this year. So we'll see how it goes, but we're all definitely picking Tarboro to win this one. We're going to move on to the Albemarle 2A. It's the AAC. Holmes won this conference at 5-0 last year, finished 8-5. Gates County finished in second, Manio in third, Perquimans in fourth, Canyon County in fifth, and Bertie in sixth. I'm definitely taking Holmes win this conference again. They are pretty loaded. And there's also a larger discussion here if they can truly compete for potentially getting to a 2A state championship. We just talked about how Tarboro is still going to be the favorite until they're not. There's another team we're going to be talking about here in a little bit that's also a contender. Laieke, how are you on Holmes this year?
I really like what they were able to do after a tough start to the season. They rebounded from starting. What did they start? It was like I want to say they started 0-4, and then won their next 8 games.
0-4.
Yeah, and then lost to Warren County in the state playoffs, who also played in the high school jamboree as a side note and played very well. But they did return most of their offensive attack between Byram, Sutton, Jernigan, and Downing. That's like I want to say almost 4,000 rushing yards. They're going to be very tough to beat again in that conference, and I would lean to them as the conference favorite again.
Yeah, I think they're a clear favorite here. Paul Hoggard is now is he in like his 10th year there or something like that? Something crazy like that. It's been there for a while now at this point. But this is the team that returns 17. Right. It returns 17 starters, just like Rose does. 3 stars on the offensive line, 3 stars on the defensive line, and all those running backs, like I mentioned. Clear favorite here. Zach, do you disagree, or do you think Holmes is going to run away with this as well?
It's Holmes. Yeah, it's Holmes to me. I heard good things about them after their scrimmage with Aiden Grifton, which is supposed to be at AG, and they moved it to Rose. So I was able to kind of peek over there while there were games going on at Rose too. Forgot they went to North Duke and won a double overtime playoff game last year. And then like you said, lost to Warren County. I think it's probably be them in Warren County as far as teams in 2A.
We're gonna get to that.
They'll play Tarboro. But it's it's Holmes and everybody else to me.
In terms of the other teams in this conference, I know Gates made a change at head coach. There's also Mandy Upper Women's, Camden, and Bertie. I think Bertie might be improved like a. But what do you think of just this rest of the conference in general, and who are you expecting to kind of rise up to that second place spot?
Gates County finished in second last year and returned Aiden Jordan, who was a big contributor for them in both sides of the ball. For me, if anyone takes a big jump, I like how Camden County looked the other night against Kip Pride. Uh, they ran the ball very effectively, and they were able to find ways through a very solid group, a team that also was in contention last year, the won 11 games, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, very good group over there, very talented group, and I could see them being a team that makes a leap into the top half of the conference.
Gates County is being taken over by Jawan Riddick, who was a 2019 graduate of Gates County. So, if I'm doing the math correctly, he's 25 years old. So that's crazy. It's the 2019 graduate's a head coach now. It's gosh, we're getting old. Zach, do you have any thoughts on the rest of the league here? Is there anyone that you think has a shot at second place? We lost Zach for a second here. Well, we'll continue a little bit here. Like, do you have any thoughts on Manio?
Manio is another team that's been a very consistent winning program over the years. They've had some down years here and there, but I do like what they have returning. Jeremiah Gibbs at running back is a kid that could have a very big season. They were a younger group last year, but I also still think they are a team that could finish in that two or three spot of the conference. And I think they're a team, but I'm still going to stick with Holmes until somebody proves to me that they can beat them in the conference.
Yeah. I want to shout out for women, Stephen Elliott, their edge rusher. Pretty good player. I think he's their top returning tackler. He had 7.5 sacks last year and 10 sacks as a sophomore. So this is a very productive edge rusher. Might have a good shot at winning defensive player of the year in this Albemarle conference. So, yeah, we're in agreement. Holmes is going to win it. I think Zach is in agreement as well. And we're going to keep moving on here while Zach gets back in. We're going to go over to the Roanoke River 1A, 2A. So this is the team we were kind of talking about here. Warren County, the 2A team, finished in second place last year to Kip Pride, which was a 1A school that won the conference at 5-0, finished 11-1 overall. Kip lost to Wilson Prep, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Laieke?
Correct.
In the playoffs, they lost to Wilson Prep. All right, so Warren County, they return a lot of key pieces from last year. I think this is the favorite in the conference. Let me know if you disagree.
Based on what I saw against Wilson Prep, a very talented group. Defensively, I mean, they started the Jamboree with a Zaire Douglas pick 6 in the very first play for scrimmage.
Who's also the quarterback.
Yes, and then he comes in, gets the 2-point conversion by doing a QB sneak, and then also is a very solid thrower as well. Like he
threw a beautiful touchdown pass in that scrimmage.
Yes, that's right. He threw a great touchdown to Jaden Turner, if I'm not mistaken. Warren County was very impressive defensively, holding that Wilson Prep team to basically one big play, and that was it. I have seen both Warren County and Kip Pride this in the preseason now. The way Warren County looked in that scrimmage, and I know it's just a scrimmage, but beating a defending state champ that returned a lot of their key players, I think Warren County I would give a slight edge to. And remember, when they played Kip Pride last year, it was a 2-point game.
Yeah, it was a close one. Amir Gamble's back as their running back this year. He was the second running back to Graham Hosh, who was probably the biggest loss from that team last year, but I think they have faith in Gamble to get it done. He averaged 9.2 yards per carry last year, had 8 touchdowns. Zaire Douglas, who was just going to be a junior this year, he had 14 rushing touchdowns last year. Receiving wise, they look to be in a pretty good spot. You mentioned Giddings there. Defensively, so Mekhi Chavis, who is a defensive lineman. He was their top tackler last year as a defensive lineman. Douglas was second, and Gamble was third. Mekhi Chavis is one of the best defensive linemen in the 252. They credited him for 50 tackles for a loss last year, which might be stretching it a little bit, but he does look the part on the film. Really good player. The defense is going to have just solid pieces in that front seven between Chavis and Douglas at linebacker. This is a team where everything's kind of looking up for them. They did beat Holmes in the playoffs there, and it's going to be largely the same team as that team from last year. So even though Holmes returns a lot, Warren County returns a lot as well. So while both teams might be improving, it might be a situation where if they improve the same amount year to year, Warren County still might be ahead. Really, really big expectations for Warren County this year, and they're going to be around next year too because a couple of their key players are just going to be juniors this year. So, Zach, now you're back with us. Do you have any thoughts on Warren County?
Hi. Hi, how are you? Yeah, welcome. Yeah, sorry about that. Nothing really. Just I've heard that my understanding is it's pretty much them and Holmes as far as other teams in 2A that can get to the Eastern Finals. So, not much to add on my end. Sorry for the technical difficulties there.
It's all right. Laieke, give us the rundown for Kip Pride this year.
Kip Pride's still a talented group. Gary Johnson and Josiah Esperance will be their guys on the offense. They're primarily a running team, but they had a big season last year, and then you also have a few pieces that they have to replace defensively. But 11-1 season, beat Warren County. Only lone loss to Wilson Prep in the state playoffs. They pretty much dominated against every other opponent they played except for those two. And I honestly think it would be more of the same. I honestly think this conference will come down to when they play Warren County. And I think both teams can walk in with high expectations for a good season. Kip is also going to play High Point Christian in a non-conference, which I find very interesting. They're going to High Point in September. So
that'll be a good research point for us because that's High Point Christian's the defending Division II state champion in NCISA, and Kip Pride's obviously a 1A public school. So that's going to tell us. That's going to help us figure out just like where does NCISA Division II stack up with public schools. That's going to be very informative for us.
Especially at a time where some of these private schools are going to come into the NCHSAA, like John Paul II here in Greenville. So that is becoming apparently more of a thing. Right? No,
that's a different podcast. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes, and yeah, we'll more to say on that as we get closer to that happening next year.
Right.
In terms of the third place here, are we thinking this is a Northampton County? Southeast Halifax? Do we think maybe Northwest Halifax or Weldon has a chance to emerge this year? It's going to be tough for Weldon. I know they scored 40 points last year. It's probably not them. What are you thinking between Northampton, Southeast, and Northwest?
I mean, based on what they have returning, I would probably lean towards Northampton as a third team. I mean, they were 3-2 in conference, so that means they were 1-6 outside of the conference. But they have historically been another consistent program. They've had a bit of a drop off with the emergence of Kip Pride in Warren County, and
that's the thing is how many of those guys ended up at Kip this year. We don't really know.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think people fully know, but Kip Pride also has that. They do have that radius rule similar to what Wilson Prep has. And those schools are literally separated by one set of houses. It's like you're in Northampton's parking lot. There's this set of houses, and then Kip Pride's football field is like right next to it.
Yeah, you can throw a rock and hit the other.
Yeah, literally throw a rock and hit Kip Pride. So, I mean, it's that Kip Pride's emergence did play a huge factor in the drop-off of Northampton, but they have always been a historic, consistent program out there. I would take them as my third place team.
Okay, I think I'll go Southeast Halifax for my third place team. There's some guys back in that defense. I think they're most of their stars are back on defense. I want to say 7 or 8 are back there, and just Northampton's just kind of an unknown at this point with what's happening at Kip. So I'll go with Southeast for my third place team. I'm taking Warren County to win the conference. Any disagreements for Warren County conference champion?
I agree based on what I've seen. I have to say Warren Warren County should have expectations to win the conference, and it'll come down to that Kid Pride game. Like I said, it was 30-28 last year when they played, and this year it's at Warren County. So that I think that's going to be packed out when they play in October.
So now we're going to get into some of the 1As here to kind of wrap things up. We'll be kind of quick with these. So Coastal Plains 1A, 2A. In this conference, we have Northside Pinetown, which won the conference at 5-0 last year and 12-1 overall. East Carteret finished in second last year. Southside finished in third. Pamlico County finished in fourth. Lejeune finished in fourth. And Jones Senior finished in sixth. So I'm thinking Northside Pinetown's a favorite here. Unless there's any disagreements, I am going to take them here. Laieke, what's the pitch for them this year?
This is a team that played in the regional. They got to host the regional finals against Wilson Prep last year. Probably the coldest game I've ever been to, as a side note.
Right up there. Oh my! Right down there.
Yeah, exactly. Everywhere when it comes to the East, another side note, wherever I'm at, Zach's probably at too, because he gets around. But I really like this. I've been a huge fan of Coach Boyd and Northside's program for a long time. This year, Zachary Woods is a kid that people should know about.
Mm-hmm. Samir Nixon as well. They were both freshmen last year.
Yes, for sure. They were very young, and I honestly think those will be the main focal points of this team. This very talented rushing attack, very solid defensively, always consistent. I don't believe, to me, in this, at least in this conference, and it's not an offense to the rest of the conference. I don't believe there is a close second in this conference. Northside Pinetown should run away with this. For honestly,
they were a unanimous pick to win the league. Yeah, they were a unanimous pick to win the league. Sorry, I didn't cut you off there, Joel.
Okay.
And for good reason. Anthony West and Deontay Moore, talented backfield names to know as far as their offense goes. Got to see them twice last week. I mean, they were putting together drives against Harborough. I mean, so they were, looking the part certainly. And I think this is the team. It's probably the best. This is probably the best team they've had since I got here. I know it's early to say that, but it's just how I feel. And I do agree that they should run away with this league. And I think it's them and Wilson Prep once again in the 1A. And I wouldn't be surprised if the game is in Beaufort County again, depending on how Wilson Prep's non-conference goes. Not knowing their schedule off the top of my head, but
no, it's the same schedule as last year, and they go out of their way to schedule some big schools. So we're definitely looking at some losses coming for Wilson Prep in non-conference, and that's going to probably lead to Northside being the home team again. Like I did mention, Zachary Woods, he's already got an offer from ECU. This is going to be a potentially a Power 4 prospect here. He's just a sophomore edge rusher this year. We'll see how his recruiting develops here. But yeah, clearly Northside's going to win this conference to us. I don't really have any more notes on the rest of the teams here. So that brings us to the Eastern Carolina 1A, which has Wilson Prep, the defending 1A state champion. Very small conference. There's only 4 teams that play football in this conference, I think. Well, wait, is Northeast Carolina Prep being added to this, Laieke?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
5 teams now.
Yep.
I don't think it matters. I think Wilson Prep still going to win the conference.
Yeah.
Let's do the rundown on Wilson Prep.
Although they did lose to Warren County in the scrimmage, I'll give you another lineman to watch, Laieke Kennedy. This kid is another potential P4 guy. Really just looked the part on film, and even throughout times in that game, he was wreaking havoc, getting in the backfield with ease. No matter if it was single coverage or double team, he just find a way back there. He's just an insane player on that defensive line for them. They've got a lot of players coming back. They did lose 1 or 2 to transfer, but I still really like this group a lot. And then, although he didn't play in the scrimmage, Chance Barnes is a freshman to watch out for, athlete, and I think he's someone that will be an impact player by the time November, December rolls around.
So Northeast Carolina Prep is back this year. When's the last time they played football? Have they played football before?
I think I saw 2018.
2018. Yeah.
Was their last football season, and it looks like a really nice field. They're
Yeah.
they're they're in Tarboro for those who don't know. But it's I'll just say with Wilson Prep, like just off the field, I like that they know they're the villains as far as like small schools in the 252 in the East go, and I like that they like lean into it, and they know that people don't like them, they don't care. They're coming off a state championship. And like, I just think it's fun. I think high school football is more fun when you have teams like that can play the heel. And Wilson Prep knows that they have that target on their back from other schools, and they lean right into it. And I just love it. I fully expect them to win this league and handle the teams on their schedule. Like you mentioned, the non-conference. I mean, Clayton, West Craven, Green Central, Northeastern, Farmville Central. So it's a fascinating set of teams. I'm sure there will be some altercations in those games. And I think like in sports, when you have these villains, like it's so much more fun. And I like that they lean into it and they don't shy away from it.
This conference also has another charter school in Sally B. Howard. So there's 3 charter schools in this conference now for football. Wilson Prep, Sally Howard, and then Northeast Carolina Prep. So we'll see how those things develop there. Obviously, those rosters can change pretty quickly. So we'll see how things go. Also Washington County and North Edge go in this conference. Steve, any notes on Washington County?
I also watched Washington County up in Northeastern. Their varsity team scrimmaged Northeastern's JV, and they had their moments, but I don't think they do have a lot. They do have some talented players over there, but I don't think it will be enough to measure to Wilson Prep's depth and size, especially on their defensive front. I do think that they'll be solid, but I'm not. I don't think any of these teams are messing with Wilson Prep in the conference play, at least.
Yeah, so we're all in agreement that Wilson Prep is going to win this conference. Now, here's the question we'll end the episode on: Wilson Prep and Northside Pinetown.
I'll pick Northside this year.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going to stick with Wilson Prep until a team out east in their classification can prove to me that they could beat them. But if anyone could do it, I would say it's Northside. I do expect these teams to be playing in the regional final again.
Okay, I'm still gonna go with Wilson Prep, but I think Northside will have a very good season, and I do expect that to be the regional final matchup, like you were saying. I think that covers everybody. We also have there's some other teams that in 252 that that's kind of a weird conference situation. So Vance County is one of them. They're going to be competitive in that Northern Six Conference. There's some other schools as well, but I think we got most of the 252 schools on this episode here. So, guys, I appreciate the time. And again, where can people find you guys?
Touchdown Friday and 9 on Your Side Sports. We just were at Jordan Mathewson's, and by we I mean I, at Jordan Mathewson's signing yesterday. So check out our coverage from that, and then we'll have all your lead up coverage to Friday, and then the only 30-minute high school football show in Eastern North Carolina. So tune in Friday night. Believe I'll be in Duplin County. I think at East Duplin and Wallsfords Hill as it stands right now. Which is always a fun rivalry. They've included a trophy modeled after Duke and UNC's victory bell. So it's turned into quite the spectacle, Joel. It'll be a fun one in Beulahville Friday night.
And for me, strike a lights on all social media platforms. Of course, we'll be contributing for high school OT again this year, in every sport possible, I'm sure. And look forward to being part of that and being part of post game and a whole bunch of other stuff. I think when people see the fro, I guess they know it's me. So, I guess, yeah.
Any idea where you're going Friday yet?
I'm leaning towards that Northern Nashua Rose game. Hopefully, we pray that whatever weather stays away from here. But that's where I would go first.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it, and we'll be seeing you guys this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.